World of Warcraft's lead game designer recently sparked controversy when he announced that flight wasn't coming to World of Warcraft's most recent expansion. Player backlash prompted a reversal of the decision, but it raises an interesting question. Is flight bad for MMOs? The advantages of flight are obvious. It's fun, allows for more ornate map design, and makes you feel powerful. But flight also introduces several other problems. To start with, flight means that enemy placement and abilities have to be reassessed. If players can fly away at any moment, enemies have to be able to compensate for that, otherwise there's no reason to ever touch the ground. Map design becomes more intricate as level designers must think about how they're going to make effective use of flying, creating obstacles for players in the air rather than just those on the ground. Landscape means nothing if you can just float over everything, and a landscape that expects you to float over everything can make players frustrated with ground-based transit. Some games try to limit flight to certain areas, a solution used in games such as Aion and Final Fantasy XIV. This ensures that areas without flight still force players to remain on the ground. But depending on distribution, this restriction can cause players to see ground-based travel as tedious or the flight mechanics as largely absent. Mechanics are also another option: stamina gauges, limited time flight, and so forth. If players can't reliably take to the skies at a moment's notice and fly forever, you have to plan your flights out ahead of time. But it also means that players will use flight as more of a tool to bypass the landscape for as long as they can. It's also possible to have enemies or obstacles that only hinder you in flight, making certain that you aren't safe once you take to the skies. This keeps the skies dangerous, but it can also make flight so dangerous that players feel it's not worth flying unless absolutely necessary. For instance, being dazed and knocked from your mount in WoW can result in instant death. Other games, such as ARCHEAGE and Guild Wars 2, make use of gliding mechanics. You get the feeling of taking to the air without the control you would get in full flight. Players get to come down from great heights and enjoy floating through the air, but they can't just ascend and dive without limitations. All of these systems are in place to ensure that flying doesn't become too powerful, but none of them changes the fact that as long as you can fly, you have a distinct advantage over those who can't, most of the time. Given the option, players generally prefer to take to the skies, bypass all obstacles, and get to the next quest objective at maximum speed. There are upsides and downsides to flight. It's a lot of fun to take to the air, but it can have some negative impacts on design and gameplay. So with a broader picture, what do you think? Is flight bad for MMOs as a whole? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and enjoy the game.